Hey guys, welcome back. Happy New Year. It is 2019. It's been a long time since I've made a video, but today's super special because I get to interview my sister Julia.
Hey guys.
And she just came out with her brand new blog, which I am very proud of, being her older sister. I just felt, man, how can we inspire people in 2019? And when I read my sister's blog, I was just super proud. She nailed it all in one blog post. And so I just wanted to interview her today, and it's titled What We're Not Doing in 2019. And we just kind of want to have some real talk, and we have our coffee, and you're just going to hear us just talk about life, and we hope that you're inspired through it. So I'm just going to go straight in. So why did you start this blog? What made you actually want to start it, and what's the purpose of this blog?
So basically, I wanted to start this blog for probably a good 3 to 4 years, ever since my first semester of college. I've obviously followed bloggers on Instagram, on Pinterest. Like, I've followed them for years now, and I've always wanted to just inspire people or have some type of outlet besides Instagram. My thought process behind that was Instagram, obviously, like, a picture can say 1,000 words, but it's like, I want to know what those 1,000 words are. So I kind of went into the idea of making a blog where I could just write out everything I'm feeling, and I can kind of just reach people that way, as opposed to a video, just because obviously a lot of people have YouTube channels, which eventually I want to get into, but I just think for the time right now in the season of my life, I'm really just intrigued with the physical aspect of, like, writing or typing.
Awesome. So in Julia's, she has her title on her blog, which we totally will put the link below of how you can actually read her blog and follow it, but we're going to kind of dissect it and kind of go deeper in each point that she wrote about. And so she talked about top 5 unhealthy habits that aren't going to cut it in 2019. Mm-hmm. And number 1 was living on your own timeline. Julia, please expand on this.
So when I was writing this out, I put this as number 1 because I feel like last year so many things went on with my education, with my relationships. And so basically when I was writing, living on your own timeline, to me it meant being fixated on a timeline over your goal. And I think that, when we have our goals, we should be focused on the goal, but then, we set a timeline. All right, this goal has to be done within a year. And so we become so obsessed with getting things done within that year to make the goal that, like, it's like, okay, what was the goal from the beginning? And I think when you stray from that, it's counterintuitive. You're going to stress yourself out, and you're just not going to complete your goal. So that was my whole thought process behind that. And then for me, just to share a little bit about how that affected me, was I wanted to finish college within the traditional 4 years. And the reason I wanted to do this was because I heard a lot of my friends, a lot of family members, they would finish within the 5 years, 6 years, even 7 years. And in my head, I'm like, well, that's not really productive. I just want to get it out of the way because I hate school. I don't really hate school, but that was just my thought process. And also, I actually wanted to get married after I graduated college. And so I'm like, all right, 4 years, get it out of the way, let's get married. But then once all of those plans kind of just fell apart, I had to let go of those timelines. And at that point, I just kind of had to give it to God.
Yeah, I think there's one way, as a young adult, I feel like as millennials, we're so about goals. We're so about reaching certain goals. And when it doesn't go our way, we have a cow. And I think this is the number 1. I think it's a very unhealthy habit, because I really believe, as a woman of faith and as someone who totally surrenders her life to God's will every single day, I think it's important to ask ourselves the question, where is God in my season? And God, I want your will, not my will. And there's something that happens along the way when you pray those kind of prayers, God, your way, not my way. And he teaches you things along the journey. And so when I think about living on our own timeline, I think the best thing that we can do is be open to what God has for us, because God ultimately has the best plan in mind for us. He has a plan for us for 2019. He has big plans for you, even he has bigger plans than you can even dream of for yourself. So if that's starting a blog, if that is getting a new job, whatever plans you think, I think sometimes we lack the trust and faith to be able to allow God to move and to be able to show us that he has so much more for us. And so we just want to encourage you to not live on your own timeline, but invite God in the process. And Julia, how do you feel like, since you've kind of let that go, like what do you feel like God has shown you in this time?
I mean, I think it's just like kind of like a burden lifted off of your shoulders, because you know, like I had my own timeline and it put so much pressure on me that I would get anxiety, because if I, for instance, obviously like I want to graduate in 4 years, so I broke it down by a month, what I want to achieve this month. And then when just plans started happening, I think another thing about having your own timeline is you don't account for like life. And I think that when life happens, you just need to be prepared for it, because anything can happen. So you have to just give yourself that cushion. You have to give yourself that grace if you don't complete something within a certain timeline. So yeah, just probably the burden that it was lifted off of me when I let everything go.
That's so good. There is true freedom when you don't have to have everything your own way in your own power, but it's so good to know that we have the freedom to be able to trust God and to let go, because he knows what's best. We're going to jump into point number 2. Unhealthy habit that we don't want to do for 2019 is letting failure identify you. And I think this is so big. I think, Julia, you nailed this. We allow failure to identify us, and it causes us to be stuck, and it stunts our growth for where we're supposed to get at. So what made you kind of want to hit this point in your blog?
So basically my quote for the year and the quote for my blog and my life is minor setbacks are setups for your major comeback.
Yes!
So that's my favorite quote. I live by that. The reason that I even came about that quote was because, like I said, I failed 2 classes abroad, and this just set everything, you know, into a tornado. And so I had to change my mindset about, you know, me failing the class. I had to change my mindset about me parting from someone that I was with for 3 years, and I had to say, all right, this wasn't, in the moment it felt like a setback, but then as I started just going through my season and doing everything that I had to, self-reflection, self-love, I'm like, you know what, these things actually set me up, and I'm better for it.
Yeah.
I'm all the better for it. You know, traveling abroad, actually traveling, not so much being in the class, obviously I failed, but just traveling abroad, meeting new people, discovering myself, going on a solo trip. I just discovered so much more about myself that I would have never done hadn't I taken a chance and hadn't I failed the class. You know, if I paid more attention in class and didn't fail the class, I wouldn't have a chance to do the traveling that I did. So I think everything happens for a reason, and that's basically why I couldn't let the failure identify me. And yeah, I just couldn't see it as failure.
So what can we do for 2019? We need to no longer put our thoughts and be stunted by our failures, but really, just like Julia said, our failures are our setups for our comeback, so to say.
Yeah.
And we're not going to no longer be frozen. We're no longer going to be stuck, but we will move forward because we are not identified. Our failure is not identifying who we are. And we want to get into point number 3, and that's using a heartbreak to justify living broken. This is a pretty deep one that you wrote about. Do you want to share with us like why you wanted to hit on this?
Yeah, so basically what I've noticed, not only for myself but just from other people, is that once they go through, you know, a heartbreak, whether it's from an ex-boyfriend, an ex-girlfriend, a heartbreak from your best friend, a heartbreak from your parent, it's just anyone in your life that you had a really close relationship. When they break your heart, you just want to be really bitter, and you want to just use that as justification for hurting other people. And so what I saw a lot last year from myself, trying to talk to other guys after I got out of a relationship, was that I was ultimately hurting other people without me even realizing it. And so once I did realize that, you know, I stopped doing what I was doing, and then I started noticing like a trend, like people are jumping into relationships too soon when they're not healed, and thus hurting the other person and trying to bring all of their baggage from the past relationship into a new one. And so I think that doing this is just, it's not good, and it's just gonna turn into a pattern, and it's really hard to get out of.
Yeah, I think this should be a year for all of us to truly allow healing to take place and to not live while brokenness could be beautiful because it teaches us a lesson and it teaches us, you know, Ariana wrote her song, Thank You Next.
My favorite song.
I think we need to move on from the brokenness. I think we have to move on into whatever our future has before us. But I really believe that God, he wants to see us whole. He wants to see us restored. And I think sometimes I was talking about this, I was talking to someone in church about this, that I believe that sometimes God, part of your healing process is that God will bring up the pain and he'll bring it back to the surface where it might be uncomfortable to even talk about. And I'm grateful for Joya's transparency, even her coming out of her relationship and being open with us. There's so much healing in transparency, but I believe that sometimes God brings stuff to the surface so that way it's part of the process of the healing. And part of the healing is first admitting that we need healing and that we do want to be restored. And so my prayer for you guys is 2019, you would seek just full healing and restoration. You cannot heal yourself. There are things that are above you. There are things that we have no control over. And part of healing is allowing God to heal those deep parts in your heart. And so 2019, do not use a heartbreak to justify living broken. Would you walk into healing? Would you walk into joy again? Will you walk into being happy? Julia had made a comment earlier about how her roommate Sydney, shout out to Sydney, hey, how Sydney said that this is the happiest that she's seen Julia. And I think it's because Julia has kind of confronted some of her demons, and Julia has actually sought out to be healthy, and there's joy that comes out on the other side of that. And so I'm just super proud of Julia to be able to testify to that. And so we're going to go into point number 4. What we're not doing in 2019 is we will not doubt ourselves. And so that's such a good point. Why did you write that?
I think 2018, the whole entire year, I doubted myself. And so I still doubt myself to this day. And I think that one of the effects of doubting myself is just not taking opportunities that I should have. Basically, it's thinking that like a certain level of success doesn't belong to you. It only belongs to other people. And so when you, for instance, for my experience, now that I'm in a management position, my age kind of in my head disqualifies me from being a manager, you know, to giving direction to people that are older than me. I still get insecure because of my age and also because of my sex in management. Because I'm a woman, I get scared when I have to tell, you know, older males what to do. And so just I need to get over doubting myself. And I think that it's an important point in order to kind of just walk into what God has for you.
So last year, one of my goals was to kick fear in the face. One of those was to totally stop doubting myself and believing who God has called me to be. And from that, I really do believe that I literally canceled out any negative thought that I would think of myself. I took a grip of my health. I lost 75 pounds. I went back to school, and I'm a mom, and I have 2 boys, and I work as a pastor. Like, I just went straight forward. I went straight into it because you know what? If I'm not going to do it now, when am I going to do it?
No one's going to do it for you.
No one's going to do it for me. And so I was like, you know what? Stop doubting yourself, Kayla. God has called you for this. God has given you all the energy and the strength to be able to do what he has called you to do. And so I am a huge witness to God's mercy and grace to get me through what I am going through. I'll be done in school in December. Both of us will. Woo. Bam. And we're graduating. And we are gonna conquer 2019 because we're gonna stop doubting ourselves and not allow other people to define who we are. And we're not gonna listen to the lies of the enemy that wants to just keep us stuck and stunt us from making an impact in places. And so we're gonna say no, boo-boo, no doubt in 2019, but we're gonna believe God for greater things. And the last point we want to touch on is we will not live in fear in 2019. And so will you do that 2019? Kick fear in the face. You are the only problem. You are the only one who is stopping yourself from being launched into what God has for you. He has a purpose and a plan for you. We're the ones in the way. Stop blaming others. It's you. You're the problem.
You're the
Stop living in fear and move forward in 2019. No longer bound by fear, no longer doubting ourselves, no longer living and being stuck in our brokenness, no longer not being able to be flexible and having our own timeline and our own calendar, and if it doesn't go our way, it's the end of the world. No longer. So I hope this encouraged you. Thanks for watching.
Thank you.
Cheers to you for 2019.